Leanne Boyd's committee brought in a trainer from Kamloops, BC, to educate government employees about satanic cults.
They really do get into it.
The trainer was a therapist, Louise Edwards.
The cults are like the black ones in the robes back in there. There's a bag of worms and spiders. There's a whole mess of snakes and things somewhere in a pile over here.
She treats both adults and children and has an army of satanic dolls for use in play therapy. And she says some of her patients tell her some pretty revolting things.
They're taking a child away from its parents generally or with the parents' blessing to savagely torment, sexually abuse, drug or medicate, lock up, be isolated alone, put them in with cages with snakes and crap like that, lower them into graves, drain their blood, make them drink blood, kill animals. I mean, the list is endless on what they do to them, and I haven't even got to 7 years old yet.
In a paper she wrote on ritual abuse, Ms. Edwards lists the symptoms that help identify victims. They include fear of blood, fear of creepy crawlies, fear of ketchup, and in artwork, mess or scribble lines, lonely mountain or lake scenes, and Christmas trees.
Isn't it normal for kids to doodle Christmas trees?
Certainly if they were doing pentagrams, putting devil figures inside the trees and stuff, yeah, I guess I'd be a little bit worried when they shouldn't know anything about that.
But you didn't say that. You said Christmas tree. You didn't specify that they had to draw a devil in it for people to be worried about it.
No, but please bear in mind that paper's 4 years old already and it's being redone again.
So is that wrong then?
Well, I would change that now. Yeah, I would change that now.
Okay, I just want to be clear on what is out and what is in. Fear of ketchup, right? Is that
ketchup and blood? Yeah, very definitely.
I mean, so people are reacting to ketchup that way, and cranberry juice. And tomato juice.
Red tea, that was a raspberry tea that's out, a red type of tea that...
So is that going to go on the list too?
Yeah, several have mentioned that one actually.
Do you worry that you might be creating a panic situation? You've got all these people out there now looking for it. Aren't they going to find it?
We're hoping that by approaching it in this way, we're doing the opposite, that we're preventing a panic situation. What we don't want is some kind of sensationalized focus on the worst parts of this, which is always the bodies and, some of those issues.
But that's what you tell them about, isn't it?
We mention that. Yeah, that's part of what we mention. But what we're really talking about is how does one look for this kind of abusive situation? How do kids get recruited into cults?
But you're alleging this. What proof could you show me that this exists? If I wanted proof, what could you show me?
If you're looking for hard proof, concrete proof of bodies or those kinds of things, I don't have any of that kind of proof.
The proof that we have had disappears.
What proof has disappeared that we had?
Okay, a good example is I had baby wax, and I wanted that to be analyzed.
What's baby wax?
Wax from a baby was burned, a baby that was burned, and the wax was made into a candle of a baby wax. It's a very important thing in the cult. Nobody will test it.
They make candles out of babies.
The wax, the baby flesh.
And you have this?
Yeah.
Could I see it?
I haven't got it. I kept it in a safe, but I do have it.
Well, we'll get it tested for you.
No police will do. Oh, you can have a sample of it then.
Despite repeated requests, we are still awaiting our baby wax candle from Ms. Edwards.
What I know clearly, because I've had this argument thousands and thousands of times, is those people who choose to believe that this is going on, there is simply nothing that you can say to them that will change their mind. No matter what you say, they have an explanation. The only thing that I've discovered that in order to maintain their belief system, in spite of the lack of hard corroborative evidence, they have to keep making the conspiracy larger and more exotic and more bizarre. So they have to be breeding babies. They didn't record their births. They're baby breeders. Well, then how come we can't? Well, then the police are part of it. They've infiltrated the police, and they've infiltrated the government, and they've infiltrated the FBI, and the president's involved in it. And now they're not only responsible for child sexual abuse, but they're responsible for pornography.
Some experts in the therapeutic community, like Dr. Roland Summit, have fostered belief that cult-conspiring police destroy the evidence. The Fifth Estate obtained a transcript of a 1987 speech where Dr. Summit warned a crowd of mental health professionals to be wary of police. In it, he said,
"For that reason, any investigation that you might prompt on behalf of your clients needs to be channeled as much as possible with trusted individuals." I mean, isn't that just feeding into paranoia here?
It sounds like it. That's why I need more of the context.
That is, I explained the context to you, Dr. Summit.
Okay. I'd say that's a comment made under the conditions there, whatever they were, that made me wish to try and prove the existence of something like ritual abuse.
But isn't the context of this specifically that you were implying that because the police didn't find anything, they were involved in satanic cults? That's what it sounds like.
It sounds like that, and I regret if that's the meaning I gave to it.
Child abuse.
Louise Edwards estimates 3 in 100 Canadians are ritually abused and will have witnessed a murder.
I did some math on that. We're talking about, if that's the case in a population this size of Canada, say 24 million, give or take, 750,000 murders you're talking about.
And the problem is?
Does that make sense? 750,000 murders. Can you stand by that?
Yeah, I think I would.
No one ever finds anything. Not a bone.
Crematoriums, yeah.
They must have conveyor belts going in and out of these things.
Well, I'm sure there'd be a few of them were definitely satanically related.
Are these missing people? Who are these 750,000 dead Canadians?
Some are imaginary murders with kids, that we know
You don't
too.
say that in your paper. You say that, and you said to me that they've witnessed murders. You didn't say that they were imaginary.
Well, then that's one thing I would change in there.
So that's wrong
Possibly.
too.
Imaginary murders, possibly.
Dr. Summit says there's a growing backlash against those who believe in ritual abuse.
I have no hesitation to describe in some detail the efforts of people to turn this around back to disbelieving children, or especially to use the issue of ritual abuse as the fatal flaw, to illustrate that anyone who would believe in ritual abuse must be unreliable and fanatic.
But the FBI disagrees.
I'm not trying to put child sexual abuse in the closet. As a matter of fact, the reason that I'm here, the reason that I've written about this, the reason I agree to do these interviews is just the opposite. Because what I'm afraid of is that when these stories don't check out, it's going to fuel the backlash against the reality of child sexual abuse. It's going to play a bigger role in putting this back in the closet if we don't recognize and address what's going on here, if we don't recognize the complexity of what's involved in all of this and just blindly accept anything that any victim says, it's going to fuel the backlash.